So as you think about drafting body paragraphs for a literature paper, you want to remember the elements that I'm looking for. One way to better understand those elements is to look how they play out in the sample essay. So let's take a look at a paragraph from Brian's sample essay. As we've been practicing all along this semester, we start off with a claim. And remember what that claim sentence is supposed to do? It's supposed to identify the text and passage. In this case, he can just identify the passage because his whole paper is talking about Faulkner. Then he's going to use both terms in his tension. And for him, his tension is reason and religious faith. He uses both terms, and he answers the question, what is Faulkner saying about that tension? Well, Faulkner is using reason to critique and mock religious faith. So he's got all the elements in that very simple, straightforward, clear topic sentence. Paragraphs should do two other things. They should discuss a literary device and how it creates meaning, and they should explore a cultural context. Let's look how this paragraph discusses literary devices. The first example of its discussion of a literary device comes early in the paragraph where an allusion to Luke 8:17 is discussed. And we're not just told by the writer that it's an allusion. We're told what it's an allusion to. And then very, very importantly comes the explanation of how the device communicates meaning. In this beautiful sentence where it says, the verse commands that we follow God, but Faulkner presents the reader with a situation where even the child can't keep his religious faith intact. Through Vardaman's doubt, Faulkner subtly presents the reader with the question that if even the children, the ones who are supposed to model our faith according to the Bible, can't continue to believe in the face of tremendous adversity, then can any of us. It's really a wonderful analysis of the way that allusion creates meaning, the way that allusion contributes to Faulkner's critique of religious faith. Notice how we can take the interpretation of meaning back to the tension. Really nicely done. The other thing you want to make sure you're doing in your paragraph is connecting your analysis to a cultural context. Brian uses the Great Depression, and importantly, he doesn't just say the Great Depression as a context, he explains how the Great Depression relates. It contributes to this attitude of doubt and religious faith. Again, not just a random cultural context, not just something that happened at the time, but something that has a related meaning to the tension. In this case, he chose an event, but he could have chosen an idea, a value, a practice, a belief, lots of ways to do context. Let's take a look at a second reference to a literary device that Brian introduces. He analyzes a quote from Vardaman. Notice how he presents the quote, a brief quote, one line, not a whole paragraph, not 2 or 3 lines. He might have even been able to focus even more closely and use a smaller part of this passage, I think. Notice how the parenthetical expression is just the page number. Doesn't say Faulkner 39, there's no periods, there's no P, there's no PG, just the page number. That's MLA format. But then the really nice use of the literary device of symbolism linked to Vardaman's incoherent logic, and how that all connects back to the discrepancy between traditional religious arguments and reason, and in particular the reason and objective way of thinking of 20th century technology and science. This is a really nice paragraph. It does a nice job of having a clear claim at the beginning in very straightforward, simple language. It looks at 2 different literary devices, in each case using the terminology and explaining how the device creates a meaning related to the tension identified in the claim, and it weaves in a relevant cultural context and connects that back to the claim. So here we have in this body paragraph from Brian's paper all of the elements of a strong body paragraph. We have a claim, we have a discussion of a literary device and how that device communicates meaning in terms of the tension, and we have a discussion of cultural context. We also have an example of how to use smaller quotes and how to properly cite them, but to also make sure we interpret them. So this is an A-level paragraph for me. It's not the greatest paragraph I've ever seen, but it's a very good paragraph and makes some really nice moves. And it's a good model for us to work with. This is the goal. This is what you want your paragraphs to look at in terms of the moves that are being made and the elements that are in the paragraph. Remember, you've got the rubric, you've got the sample essay. Use them as tools as you're drafting to help you develop your thinking. See you in Blackboard.